Good morning, 520. We're going to continue today with Who Cloned the President. So let's review what we read in chapters 1 and 2. Chapter 1, we learned that Casey Corcoran and her friend Marshall Lee, these two students, are in the fourth grade and they are doing a report on the president. They picked a name out of a hat. Casey got really lucky and she picked President Thornton, which is the current president. And Marshall picked Herbert Hoover, who says, I don't even know who that is. So they go home after school. Casey starts doing some research. She turns on a news report with the president, who she watches all the time. And she notices that he is signing papers with his right hand. And in the research that she was doing, she found out that he was only the fourth left-handed president, and that stuck out to her because she too was left-handed. So she notices that he's signing with his right hand. She says he walks away. He doesn't talk to anybody, shake anybody's hand. So she's thinking first, like, he really has to be sick. And then she says, you know what? There was a headline that President Thornton says no to human cloning, and she says, that's it, somebody cloned the president. So she calls Marshall and she says, you need to come down here or up here, I forget which way. One of them lives upstairs and the other one from the apartment. And they're talking about it, and he's like, I don't even know what we're talking about. But they decide that they are going to try to save the president from whatever's going on. So they sneak out of the house by one telling their parents that they're staying at the other, Marshall tells his parents that he's staying with KC. KC says, I'm staying with Marshall. And they sneak out. And Marshall says, where are we going to sleep? And Casey says, in the White House. So here we move on to Who Cloned the President, chapter 3, which is called Spider Surprise. The bus dropped them a short walk away from the White House. Casey looked at her watch. That must be the last tour of the day. Let's get in line. Since it was February, there weren't many tourists. Casey grabbed Marshall's arm and joined the group. Casey, can I ask a dumb question? He whispered. Why am I sneaking a jar of spiders into the White House? Casey whispered her plan. Now I know you're nuts, he hissed. We're not going to sleep in the White House. We're going to sleep in jail. Casey shushed him. Just remember to throw the spiders when I give you the signal, she whispered. But how will I get them back? Marshall asked. I raised these spiders from babies. They love me. Marshall, just think. Your spiders are going to save the President of the United States, Casey said. They'll be famous. Charlotte only saved a pig. Charlotte who? Casey raised her eyebrows. Oh, Marshall said, looking embarrassed. That's Charlotte. Anyway, what's your signal? Casey thought for a minute. Neck. When I say neck, you toss the spiders. Neck? How are you going to work neck into a conversation? Trust me, just be ready, okay? The line moved. Pretty soon, Casey and Marshall were inside the White House. A woman in a blue suit met the group. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Debbie. I'll be your guide today. And since Lincoln's birthday was last week, we've opened the Lincoln bedroom for all tours. Will we see President Thornton? Someone asked. Debbie smiled. I know he's in the building. Keep your eyes peeled. Marshall smiled for the first time in an hour. Maybe I can get the president's autograph, he said. In the Lincoln bedroom, the guide pointed out the paintings and antique furniture. In Lincoln's term, this was not a bedroom, so he never slept in this magnificent bed, Debbie told the crowd. The tourist said, ooh, a lot, and asked questions. Open the jar, Casey whispered. Marshall stared at her. Here? Now? She nodded. Move away from me. Mix in with the crowd. She pointed to her neck. And get ready for you-know-what. With a sick look on his face, Marshall went to stand behind three nuns. Casey watched him stick both hands inside his backpack. If there are no more questions, the guide said, we can move on to... I have a question, Casey said. She waved her arm like she did in school. Yes, Debbie asked. Everyone turned to look at Casey. Suddenly she screamed, Something's on my neck! She began jumping and slapping at her neck. My neck! It's crawling on my neck! Out of the corner of her eyes, she saw Marshall toss the spiders. No one else noticed. They were all staring at Casey. Then a woman screamed, Spiders! There are spiders in my hair! Ugh! The guide yelled. She swiped at the black spider crawling on her arm. Suddenly there seemed to be spiders everywhere. 24 tourists panicked at once. Everyone ran out of the room screaming and slapping at their bodies. With an unhappy look on his face, Marshall slipped the empty jar into his backpack. Here's a picture of all of the people kind of covered in spiders. Woo! Casey looked around. They were alone. She grabbed Marshall and dragged him down under the Lincoln bed. "It worked," Casey whispered. "And we're fourth-grade felons," hissed Marshall. "Plus, I lost all my spiders." "Your spiders will be heroes," Casey said. "But we'll be prisoners," Marshall spattered. "Why do I listen to you?" "'Cause I'm your best friend," Casey said, calmly opening her backpack. "Juice?" she asked. We're also going to read chapter 4, which is called Under the Bed. Casey drank her apple juice and ate raisin cookies. Marshall curled into a ball and glared at her. "Aren't you hungry?" Casey asked. No answer. "Are you really mad at me?" Marshall closed his eyes. "Okay, but there are only 2 more cookies." Marshall reached out a hand. "If we ever get out of here," he said, "I might forgive you." They finished the rest of the snacks in silence. Casey kept checking her watch. Marshall sighed a lot and looked for his spiders. He didn't see any. Casey curled up and took a nap. Marshall scratched at a mosquito bite on his ankle. Hours later, a clock bonged 10 times. "Finally," Casey said. "Okay, Marsh, it's 10 o'clock. Let's go." She crawled out from under the bed. Marshall was right behind her. "Go where?" he asked, stretching his back. The Lincoln bedroom was dark. Only a small light was on, near one of the doors. "To rescue the president," Casey said. She smiled at her best friend. "Maybe we'll get that autograph," she added. Marshall snorted. "I bet he's brushing his teeth and getting ready for bed." He slung his backpack over his shoulder. "Like we're supposed to be doing." Casey smiled. "And the real president brushes his teeth with his left hand." She opened the door and peeked into the hall. Like the bedroom, it was nearly dark. Small lights shone on the portraits hanging on the walls. Vases of flowers stood on polished tables. "Come on," Casey whispered over her shoulder. She yanked on the first doorknob that came to. It was locked. "Try every door," she ordered. Just then, a man in a uniform came around a corner. Luckily, he was looking at the floor, not straight ahead. "Guard!" Casey hissed. She grabbed Marshall and hurried him through a small door. It led to a set of stairs. "Let's go down here," Casey whispered. "I need to find a bathroom," Marshall said. Casey whipped around. "Why didn't you go at home?" "I did, but that was a long time ago. We were under that dumb bed for about a year. And besides," he added, "breaking into the White House always makes me a little nervous." Casey started down the steps. "Maybe there's a bathroom down here." A few minutes later, they found themselves in a huge, dark kitchen. Casey twisted a dimmer switch on the wall. "Cool," she said. "This must be where they cook those big state dinners." Marshall spied a small door. "I'm going to see if that's a bathroom," he said. So here they are, sneaking through the White House into that basement. Casey looked around while she waited. The kitchen was in a basement. The floors were tiled. Instead of fancy wallpaper, the walls were painted white. Marshall came back while Casey was twirling a combination lock on an enormous freezer. "Why do they lock everything in this place?" she muttered. "To keep people like you out," Marshall grumbled. They found a corridor and tried more doors. "I'm getting tired of this," Marshall said. "Can we—" "Shh, I hear something," Casey whispered. They froze and listened. Then Marshall heard it too. Somewhere, someone was laughing. They tiptoed down the passageway, following the noise. Over their heads, pipes ran along the ceiling. Small lights shone down, casting shadows on the concrete floor. "Look!" Casey pointed to a partly opened door. She heard someone laugh again. Squeezing Marshall's arm, she crept closer and peered around the door. Then she nearly fainted. President Zachary Thornton was slumped in a chair just a few feet away. And that's the end of chapter 4. Okay, so as always, you have a couple questions to answer. Reach out if you need any help, and we'll be talking to you soon. Have a great day.